Oh, you speak okay.
Yes. So, this function will return other function references.
Delicate touch.
Function references as its return. So, when you execute this function, you get a function reference. But if you provided this as a function reference, this would be called when we do, right? And the return value, even if it's a function reference, like just because you return a function reference doesn't mean that function reference would be called. In order to do that, you would need to return. Make sense?
So this comment is correct.
So calling a function is an expression, right? If that, it doesn't matter what this expression is, it'll be returned. If the calculated result is a function reference, this will work. And if it's not, it won't. Make sense? Excellent. Yes?
How come mine's not working?
You know how you click it and it'll change to like indigo or but I mean it does that. It'll run the
Go back to that. Refresh. Try again.
yeah.
It's randomly picking, right?
Yeah, well
Yeah, it is.
but when this first even when the didn't change that and then it must so it was maybe
You were just getting royal blue, or whatever it was.
also had to be
I'm glad I didn't pick indigo. That would have been a seizure warning. Yeah. Yeah, the CSS color names have to be spelled exactly. Okay. If you include in the comments a brief paragraph about what the regular expression is, how it is, and three paragraphs in the comments. It was just like yeah. So you can elements of a string. We're pretty sure that if you have a string, maybe that's some notation. One second. So you can, when you have a string, right? If you have it as a string, you can access the individual elements of the string using just a regular loop, the same way you would a list. And then all you have to do is like run through the list and say You know, is this 1 or 0? Is this 1 or 0? Is this 1 or 0? You know?
They're looking for them.
Yeah.
Apparently they forget.
You don't get to use regular expressions unless you can explain them.
I tried to make text status
Really?
Okay. Your attention, please. We have a lot to get through and not much time to get through it in. So, we have talked about setting up event listeners. We have talked about, oh, I need to turn this bloody thing on. All right, let me see here. Is it on? Yes, it is on. Okay. Was it recording the whole time? Probably not. Anyway, it doesn't particularly matter, I suppose. Sometimes there is useful information generated about an event other than the type of event that was generated and whether the event was generated. Like, that the event was generated is useful information for the computer. What type of event was generated is useful information to the computer. There are other characteristics of the event which might be useful for your program. When you write a listener function, the event listener will pass an event object to that function as its first argument. Up to now, we have not used it. Remember that in JavaScript, when a function is passed an argument that it didn't expect, it just ignores it, right? So the functions we've been writing so far have been ignoring this past event handler, or this past event object. But it's got useful properties. So, for example, let's write a new function that will just simply display some properties like which button was clicked, although that one's not as interesting, but most particularly where on the screen the event occurred. Since it's a mouse event, there is a location on the screen where that event happened. That information is contained inside the event object. So, let's turn this back to a quick event. I'm going to use an anonymous function for this. Get out of my way, tooltips. Stop. Thank you. So, it's a little bit weird declaring the function inside of the arguments to another function. You end up with a close round brace and a semicolon at the end after your closing curly brace. Kind of ugly. That's JavaScript for you. It's less ugly than other ways to do it. So, event.client X and event.client Y are the X and Y locations inside of the client. Read positions on the web page where the clicked event occurred. So we can easily print this to console. Console.log. Maybe make it look a little bit fancy. There we go. This just puts it in braces with a comma in between. So, you'll notice every time we click, inside the div that is, the position of the mouse when we clicked is given. Make sense? Hmm? Oh, the code? Yes.
Okay, so the event argument is referencing what?
So, when add event listener executes the function that it's been passed, it itself passes one argument to that function. It's an event object, right? The event object has lots and lots of tasty information, such as various pieces of information about the event that occurred. The one we're going to play with is where that event occurred. Make sense? So, you can do some fun stuff with this. Let's go back to the HTML, which I know we haven't modified very much. Let's put another div in here. We'll call it ball.
Inside the other div.
It's a div within a div. Divception. This one I'm going to make width is 30 pixels. Height is also 30 pixels. Border radius is 15 pixels. Since the border radius is half of the height, that means that this will be a sphere. Well, it'll be a circle, but you can make it look like a sphere if you put another tiny div inside of it. It looks like a reflection, but anyway. Position, absolute.
What does that do?
So positioning can be relative to the parent object, or it can be referenced to the page itself. The positions that we are getting from client X, client Y, are positions on the page itself, not relative to the div. So if we say position absolute, we're in the same frame of reference as the input that we're receiving. It's not impossible to convert from one frame of reference to another, but it's math you don't have to do, so why would you do it?
Right? You love math.
I mean, reminds me of that XKCD cartoon. Do you expect me to convert from linear to radial coordinates while strapped to the centrifuge? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. So, position absolute, and I'm just going to give it a color, background color. What's a good background color? What did you say, huh? Cyan?
No.
No? That's a little bit light.
Octathorn, 1, 2, 2.
Wait, okay. 1, 2, 2.
5, 3D.
5, 3D. Okay.
With white text.
Okay. Save that up. There you go. There's our little div circle inside of our larger div. Now, you'll notice, like even clicking right in the top corner here, right? This is still, like the coordinates are clearly relative to the page, not relative to the div. Otherwise it would be a lot closer to 0, right? So, what we can do, rather than just printing these, if we create a reference, let ball ref equal document dot get or query selector octothorpe ball. So that grabs a reference to the ball object, right? Process we should all be familiar with by now. We can say ball.style.top is equal to event.client.y, or not .y. Then, if we want to center it, we subtract the width of the ball, 15 pixels. And then we do the same for left and x. In theory, we are setting the position of this ball to the position of the mouse click. So the ball should go to the position that we click on. So let's see if this works. Or have I tricked you again with one of my clever demonstrations? I've tricked you again. So it's not working. The question is why? So first, does anybody just know why this isn't working? Okay, so top and left are CSS properties, right? No. We specify them the same way we specify width and height. How do we specify width and height?
With a unit.
Pixels. We put the unit in. So, because there's no unit here, it's like 100 what? Go figure it out. I'm too lazy to do anything. That's JavaScript for you. So, these these values are also just integers, which is also like it also expects a string, not integer, right? So if we append it with px for pixel, ta-da! Now I've got this kind of annoying blinking cursor in there. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. There we go.
It's like a game.
It's almost a game. It's getting close to being a game. It's getting close to being actually something that's close to what you would be submitting for assignment 4, actually.
Like you can, if you had like mouse over your model, then that's so cool. And then with the graphic of the ball, with that thing that we did the other day, collision, bounces back. Good somewhere.
Pong has been like, I love that moment because like the finger of God has descended from the heavens, touched your brain, and implanted the idea of Pong in there. You know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. Divinely inspired. All right. But we can make it more interesting. What if we did, rather than click, mouse move? Ah! It's stuck to the cursor. Now here's an interesting thing though, right? It is perhaps not unexpected that it would be stuck to the cursor inside of this div. But you can take it outside the div. We can free it from the surly bonds of this earth, and it can just go anywhere in the web page. Anybody have any idea why?
Because the overflow is not hidden.
Or
the position is absolute.
Well, we can write to any position.
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't explain why the event is being triggered
Outside.
for a mouse position outside of this div.
And you show the code.
I can show the code.
It only starts when it's in the div book. If it's on the
It just said,
So do you have to specify